presents a profile of Aneurin Bevan. Although he died in 1960, his enormous influence on the Labour Party is still felt today, a class apart. Here on BBC One, Patrick Malahide, Joanna McCallum and Rosalie Crutchley star in episode 2 of Josephine Tey's story about a young girl allegedly taken against her will as a servant. The Franchise Affair.
Miss King, this is a very grave accusation. Are these the two women who detained you, took your clothes from you, forced you to mend linen, starved you, and beat you?
Yes, these are the women.
Miss Sharp, you see my position. You say you've never set eyes on Elizabeth Kane before this afternoon. Yet she's not only described this house in which she says she was kept a prisoner, but she's also described you and your mother in great detail. Now, if she isn't telling the truth, can you think of any explanation?
No.
I take it you've investigated this girl before accepting so much of her story.
Yes, Mr. Blair, the police have made a very thorough investigation. By all accounts, she has an excellent record. A quiet girl, popular at school, and a settled home life with the family who took her in during the war.
And what have they got to say about all this?
Considering they look upon the child as their own now, they've taken the whole distressing business rather well.
And all that remains is for me to take the whole distressing business with the same admirable detachment. Could we please get this over with, Inspector?
Yes, of course. Callum, would you wait down here with Mrs. Scott, please? I don't think it's necessary for us all to go upstairs.
Right, you are.
Miss Sharp, perhaps you'd lead the way. You'll remember, Mr. Blair, that Miss Kane said she was dragged up a first flight of stairs which were carpeted, and a second flight with something hard underfoot.
They were in there, on top of a big trunk.
Those suitcases have been lying exactly where you see them since we moved into the house 18 months ago.
And they've never been in there?
No, no.
I remember that round one.
That window has always been cracked like that.
Was there any heating in here, Elizabeth? I seem to remember it rather cold in April. The coldest since 1881.
They gave me some blankets from the trunk.
And where was the trunk?
Here, with all those cases on top. The bed was over there.
There was a bed there. I got rid of it.
You sold it?
I gave it to the woman we get our dairy stuff from, Staples Farm.
I see. And when was that, Miss Sharp?
About a year ago. I don't remember precisely.
There was a sort of chair thing, too, by the bed,
A chair thing?
with a lid.
I think she means a commode, Inspector.
Ah.
Boy's own stuff.
Thank you, Mr. Blair. You've saved me the trouble. Miss Kane, can you remember what this trunk looked like?
Square with leather straps and a sort of tray thing inside.
I acknowledge that we have such a trunk. My mother has it in her bedroom. She uses it to store things in, but it has never been up here.
Thank you, Miss Sharp. I'm sure there's no need to trouble your mother again this afternoon. Now, shall we go down to the kitchen? Now, in her statement, Miss Kane said we went into a large kitchen with a stone floor and one of those rows of bells. The curtains were a greeny pattern. The pan she heated the milk in was blue. It had a lot of chips off around the bottom.
Take your pick. I doubt if there's a kitchen in England that hasn't got pans like these.
One of the wheels was painted a lighter colour from the others and didn't look as if it belonged. The different wheel was in front on my side as it was standing at the bus stop. I ask you again, Miss Sharp, how could she have known about the franchise at all? So much about it. Or you, if she'd never been here before.
I haven't the least idea.
My men made a thorough search of the district, Miss Sharp. There's no other house between Loughborough and Milford that fits the girl's description.
It seems such an unlikely place to pick on, doesn't it? A remote house on a lonely road, barely visible behind that wall. What do you make of it, Mr. Blair?
Oh, a piece of sensationalism by an unbalanced adolescent.
Oh, come now. She's hardly sensational. Look at her. Transparently truthful was the phrase her form mistress used. She's just an ordinary, well-spoken of young girl who's never been in any kind of trouble, in school or out of it. I'll be able to get you on the telephone if I need to talk to you again.
We have no intention of going anywhere, Inspector.
You've been very helpful and courteous. Mr. Blair?
I've left my briefcase inside. You do realize, don't you, that the girl has an enormous advantage over you? In the matter of evidence, I mean. She's free to describe almost anything she likes as part of your household. If she happens to be right, it's strong evidence for her. If, however, she's wrong, it's not evidence for you.
The way she was wrong about the colour of the kitchen curtains.
She could simply say that you changed them.
What happens now?
I very much doubt if Grant has a case that he'd want to present in court. It's the girl's word against yours with no other backing on either side. I don't think he could hope to get a verdict.
But her statement's so detailed. Suppose he does bring it to court. It means my mother and I will be facing a criminal charge.
Whatever happens, I think we'd better wait for a couple of days to see what Grant means to do. He has much better facilities for arriving at the truth than I do.
Coming from a lawyer, Mr. Blair, it's a touching tribute to the honesty of the police.
It doesn't pay them to be satisfied with anything less than the truth, Miss Sharp.
Do you believe that girl's story?
Look here, I'm awfully sorry. It's criminal law, you see. I'm just a country solicitor. If you'd only explained on the telephone what the trouble was, I could have told you right away. You'd been much better off with somebody who's used to police cases. My firm simply isn't equipped to deal with this sort of thing. I honestly feel, Miss Sharp, you'd be much wiser.
Do you know what I honestly feel, Mr. Blair? I feel like someone drowning in a river. All I need is someone to give me a hand. But you're just standing there making excuses.
Aunt Lynn, have you met those new people at the franchise yet?
No. I've seen them, of course. Very odd.
Why do you say that?
Why do you ask?
I had to go out there this afternoon. They wanted some legal advice.
Well, I hope they pay you for it. I'm told they're as poor as church mice.
Rich enough to buy the biggest property for miles.
No, dear, no. It was left to them by old Mr. Meredith. He was Mrs. Sharp's brother.
You do know something about them, then?
I'm not the one to pass on idle gossip, Robert. I've seen them, as I said, in Milford. But I believe they do most of their shopping in Ham Green.
So, they're not part of the social scene yet?
I don't think they ever will be. They have an odd air of being self-sufficient.
Yes, they do, don't they? I must have driven past that house 1,000 times. I don't think I've actually seen it until today.
It's very isolated. I expect they have a problem with servants.
Not anxious to take it on, Neville.
Why?
Since when in this ivory tower has anybody been on calling terms with Scotland Yard?
Well, it seems to me you made your reluctance pretty plain to Miss, what's her name yesterday?
Miss Sharp. Good morning, Mr. Robert. Morning, Timmy.
Tea, Tuffy, I'm parched. You really are a very odd man, Robert. Only yesterday you were moaning about how dull your life is. Now when something a little out of the ordinary drops in your lap, you run like hell in the opposite direction.
I just don't know why John Hallam recommended me.
Ill-judged philanthropy?
He knows I'm not a criminal lawyer.
Oh, perhaps he thought these people needed a friend. Someone to stand by them and tell them what they didn't need to answer if they didn't want to. You don't need a training in crime for that. Even if he did recommend you, it doesn't put you under any obligation.
Just by being there, I've identified myself with their interests.
A skinny spinster of 40, living with a rude old mother in an ugly house, who wants legal advice for which she probably can't pay.
I never said she was skinny.
From what you've told me, they sound as guilty as sin.
Quite frankly, they terrify me. Please get off my desk.
Why not edge them off onto Ben Carley? If they've done something they want to get away with, he's God's gift. Carley could bail the devil out of hell.
Hello, Carley. Mildred.
Afternoon, Blair.
Bobby, darling, haven't seen you for simply ages. Where have you been hiding? You do know Anita Kenton, don't you? Oh, of course you do. Anita from Ham Green.
Hello.
Hello. The most eligible bachelor in Milford, darling. Quite a dark horse, I'd say.
I hear you were down at the franchise the other day.
The franchise? Really?
One forgets that the telephone round here is about as private as the wireless.
As a matter of fact, it was La Pinna here who saw you leaving the place.
Yes, police cars too, darling. Quite a surprise.
I take it the Sharps haven't been shoplifting, have they?
They haven't been shoplifting.
Do tell, is the rumour true? Is the old girl a witch?
She's supposed to be.
What a strong local support for that belief.
I rather thought witch hunting had gone out of fashion.
Oh, don't you believe it. Give this inbred crowd of degenerates a good excuse to witch hunt with the best of them.
Seriously, can't you imagine those franchise women being burnt at the stake? Fanatics' faces if ever I saw them.
Well, if you'll excuse me. Nice to meet you, Miss Kenton.
Be seeing you.
TTFN.
Bye-bye, Bobby, darling. Come and see us soon.
Thanks, sir.
So much for an unprejudiced jury. What time are you going to see Wynyard this afternoon?
3.
Make a detour, will you? I'd like you to drop in a note to the franchise.
Well, why not ring? You've changed your mind about representing them.
I can't just abandon them to someone like Carley.
All right. Always wanted to see what it was like inside those walls.
There's a letterbox by the gate. No need to go in.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Come and sit down, love.
What's the matter?
Inspector Grant has something he wants to tell you.
We've decided not to proceed with the case, Betty.
Why?
I'm afraid we lack corroborative evidence.
What does that mean?
I'll tell you what it means. It means they're not going to prosecute those bitches.
It means that at the moment it's simply your word against theirs. We need more evidence, stronger evidence, before we can proceed.
It's not right. None of it.
They think I made it all up.
It's not like that, love.
It's wrong, Mum. And someone's got to put it right. They shouldn't be allowed to get away with it.
There's no point getting worked up. There's nothing we can do.
Isn't there?
Leslie?
I know someone who'll listen.
Leslie?
No one's going to beat my sister and get away with it.
Listen, love. Leslie, please listen to me.
The whole thing's a bloody liberty, Mum.
Thank you, Miss Tuff.
With the letters, Mr. Robert.
I'll see to them now.
Why didn't you tell me she was like that?
Knock next time, please. That could have been a client.
She's amazing, Robert.
Who is?
The sharp woman, of course.
All you had to do was to drop a note through the letterbox.
She met me at the gate.
I was under the impression she slept every afternoon.
Marion Sharp? I don't believe that one ever sleeps.
You seem to have become remarkably intimate for a doorstep acquaintance.
We had tea together.
I thought you were on your way to see Wynyard.
Well, I'll see him on Monday.
You mean you've been at the franchise all afternoon?
Yes, I suppose I have, yes.
Did you telephone Mr. Wynyard and explain why you weren't coming?
Sorry.
Do it now, will you?
It's a bit late, isn't it?
Just do it, Neville. Please make your apologies pretty bloody abject.
All right, all right.
It's about time you stopped behaving like an undergraduate.
Admit it, though. You're as stunned by that woman as I am.
Oh, get out. I've got work to do. Nice motor car. One of your regulars?
Nope. Trouble.
Take a look at it, would you, Stan? Just doesn't sound right.
You take my tip?
How'd what?
Hack Emma, the Irish filly.
Don't tell me.
You forgot.
Sorry. Not on my mind at the moment. Oh. Did she win?
By a length and a half. It's not good, Mr. Blair. You'll have to leave it. It's your piston rings.
Oh, never mind. Shan't need it tonight.
Strange lady.
What way?
Yes.
What? What was wrong with her car?
Nothing. She just wanted some paint removed from one of her wheels.
Here's Robert.
John.
And another cup.
Well, late, dear.
Left the car with Dad. All right for some. Business or pleasure?
Grant's lost his nerve on the franchise affair.
He's dropping the case.
Have you ever known the Yard to drop a case? I'd have risked it.
Well, thank goodness you're not in charge. I don't think abduction and detention have sullied our files for centuries. I'm not even sure if it's a felony or a misdemeanor. Oh, well. What did you make of the Sharps?
Plausible liars.
I'd just as well say that about the girl.
You think so? She seemed quite genuine to me.
She's certainly a prosecuting counsel's dream of a witness.
I looked it up in the dictionary, you know.
Look what up?
Franchise. Such an odd thing to call a house. Means sanctuary, freedom from arrest.
Very appropriate.
Or try to call on the Sharps, do you think, dear? If you're going to know them, it would be polite.
I think not.
No, perhaps you're right. Very uncomfortable people, I imagine. In Spain, monasteries used to be franchises for criminals.
What about chickens?
Chickens?
Well, they don't take much to look after. We could fence off part of the kitchen garden. What do you think?
Have you ever looked closely at a hen's face? It's concentrated evil.
No chickens. Milford, 237.
Miss Sharp, it's Robert Blair, Hayward Minister.
Good evening.
I thought you'd like to know that Inspector Grant has decided not to proceed with the case. Hello? Miss Sharp?
Thank you, Mr. Blair. You can't imagine what a relief that is. Why did they suddenly decide to drop the case?
Oh, they're not dropping it exactly, just sitting quiet. Well, the official line is that on present evidence, they're not taking any proceedings.
Somehow I don't find that very reassuring, Mr. Blair. When you said they weren't proceeding with the case, I naturally thought you meant that that girl had confessed to her pack of lies.
Miss Sharp, we can't very well discuss this on the telephone. Would it be convenient if I...
Mother and I could come to your office. Would Monday morning be all right?
Monday, yes. About noon?
12 o'clock on Monday. Thank you.
So you've changed your mind about defending those peculiar people?
I haven't changed my mind, Aunt Lynn, and I'm not defending them, I'm representing them.
It's really very irritating of you, Robert. If you are acting for them, I shan't be able to talk about it to anyone. It's like wanting to be sick and having to postpone it.
Waitress.
Perhaps we ought to forget about coffee this morning.
Certainly not. Waitress.
She's deliberately ignoring you, Mother.
It's a matter of principle.
You can pay too high a price for your principles.
Hens' faces. All of them. Vicious hens' faces.
Stan? Morning.
Just dropped in to pay my bill.
Oh, it's around here somewhere. Try over there. Any tips?
Not a thing.
Because I'm £2 down on a cow called Bright Promise.
That's what comes of putting your faith in horseflesh.
Good God. Oh, you found it then?
Can I borrow this, Stan?
Take it. Saturdays. Nice little number, that. Reminds me of a bint I had in Egypt.
And episode 3 of The Franchise Affair is next Sunday at the slightly earlier time of 5:45.